Hi, and welcome to the Future CFO, a new webinar series that we just recently launched here at Rillion. My name is Frida Ahrenby. I'm the CMO at Rillion, and I will be moderating here today. And for those of you that don't know what Rillion is, we are a platform for automated accounts payable and payments. We have 30 years of experience in this space. We're originally from the Nordics in Europe, but we have a global presence today. But it's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about something much more interesting because in this webinar series, we are inviting CFOs to talk about the latest trends within finance, within AI, within automation, but also how the role of the CFO is actually evolving over the years. And a lot of the things that we will touch upon today is based on research that we have been doing ourselves through anonymous questions to CFOs in the market, something that we have chosen to call the Finance Labs reports. And with me today, I have two prominent guests. Carissa, Kell, you are the CFO of Finastra.
Yeah.
Welcome. And Cisco, Sacasa, you are the CFO at Miyoko. Did I pronounce
Perfect.
that right?
Well done.
And the topic today is how to navigate effectively with AI and automation. So how are you feeling? Are you ready to get going?
I'm super excited, for what the future comes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we're super happy to have you here. Okay, let's jump straight into it then. One of the first questions that we asked in our survey is how automated are really today's finance departments? And according to the results, 40% of the CFOs believe that they are either very or fully automated. So from your perspective, Carissa, then, does this number feel realistic? Does it resonate?
I think it does. I think many of us have probably been working for years to get to a level of automation. So to have about 40% that feel that they are there is probably pretty much where I would expect to be. In fact, I'd probably think that there would be a higher percentage.
Yeah.
But I think we all pretty much hate the manual work and want our teams to do less and less of it so they can do the value add.
Well, what do you think, Cisco? What does it look like in your finance department?
Yeah, that sounds about right. There's a cost benefit between automating and manual processes. And I think there's a sweet spot. Right now, for us at Miyoko's, I feel like we're in the right place. That we have a 5-day close, and most, on day zero, we're 95% closed already. Most transactions post automatically. And there's a little bit of manual push at the end. But for our size company or on our journey, pretty happy where we are, but we can always do better.
Yeah, that's always
more to do.
Yeah. But can you, just to give some concrete examples, what does it mean being automated? What does it mean within payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, analytics? Can you share some good examples, Carissa?
Sure. I'll go first.
Okay, I'll go first.
We were joking before that. I feel like we're fairly automated of transaction processing. But when you look at the underlying technology, what we use in our business, we're in the food and beverage business, which is consumer packaged goods. A lot of the transactions that we have, that the backbone of our automation is EDI, which, it's an old technology, but it works great. All our partners use it, Target, Walmart, all the large grocery stores, and transactions come in, transactions go out, no human intervention, and it automatically posts to the GL. So our AP is always up to date, our invoicing and AR is always up to date, our cash balances. So I'm super happy with the level of automation we have, but it is kind of funny that it's kind of really old technology. It's not based on AI, it's based on old tech, but it works.
Yeah. So if you would say a percentage, how automated are you, would you say?
For transactions, AP, AR, it's 98%. It's very few look at my invoicing, 98% of my invoices go out with no human interaction.
Yeah.
There's always that one customer that you have to email it to, the small customer that doesn't have, they can't receive electronic invoicing. On the AP side, probably 70%. We still get a lot of emailed invoices that have to be, but then once it's in our building, it's all automated. I mean, it's all routed electronically, electronic
The coding
approvals,
and everything.
all that stuff is. There's still a human interaction, a human process. Somebody has to review it, approve it, etc. But all the routing, all that stuff is, the workflows are all done electronically.
Approvals and.
So we're a pretty small company, so it's fairly happy for our size where we are.
Yeah. That's good, I would say. I mean,
yeah, I know, that's good.
Would you say that automation is or has been more on your agenda the last couple of years compared to before, or would you say that you've had this top of mind for a long time?
Yeah, for our journey, we were shifting from being a small company to being a middle-sized company, and as you scale, that's top of mind. So historically, we're a small company on QuickBooks, and everything's manual. And over the last 3 years, we made the shift to NetSuite, all the NetSuite partners. So we bolted on all the partners. And my primary selection of a vendor is how well it interacts out of the box with NetSuite. I don't want to build a custom API. And as we do that more and more and more, then the transactions just flow naturally. And where we are now in our scaling, we're ready to scale. Like I can double in size and probably not at any headcount because, the systems will scale. So
that's amazing.
So we are in our journey.
What about you, Carissa? Can you share examples of how you've implemented automation in your processes?
Sure. I think, there's so many examples across every piece of finance. The one I'll focus on is in procurement. So we just recently installed Coupa. The idea there is really around ensuring that we have a single source of truth for all of our procurement spend. Outside of people cost, everything else goes through procurement. And so we want to ensure that we are tracking that appropriately, have the right checks and balances in place. And before that, we were just doing everything through NetSuite that didn't have quite the same level of reporting and analytics available to us. And part of that, we're actually implementing an AI tool to go, our procurement business partners handle everything over a certain dollar amount. And so we have a $50,000 threshold for any spend above that. The procurement business partners get involved and have conversations and work through the RFIs and the like. For the below that, we're implementing an AI tool to help benchmark, reduce cost, ensure that we're getting the best use of our spend for those smaller activities. So it's able to kind of take it and look at it and say, okay, I've seen similar transactions with similar purchasing at this price point, and be able to use that to negotiate for leverage without having to have a person interact with that from the procurement team.
Interesting. And then that tool is integrated to your procurement.
Yes. And so then they kick off, once that has been negotiated, it kicks off the normal procurement process where we go through third-party risk management and everything else as part of that.
Interesting. Okay. I want to hear more about that later. But so what would you say then for I mean, obviously it sounds like you are somewhat advanced when it comes to automation, but what would you say then in terms of companies and CFOs just starting out? Like, how do you get started? What should you look for? Where should you begin, Cisco?
I'll jump first. Like I talked about on our journey at Miyoko's, you got to start with the ERP. That becomes a centerpiece. In selecting the right ERP will set you up for success for the next 10 years. Selecting the wrong ERP will set you back a long time. You'll have to replace it or upgrade again. So it's tough because you need an ERP that you need 3 years from now, and you can't afford that, but that's how you got to implement. Otherwise, you'll take a small step and then you'll have to do it again. Once you have that in place, then that becomes your ecosystem, and then you start, procuring other solutions that go with that. And like I said, my strong bias is to buy software partners to my ERP that come integrated out of the box. Don't like building custom APIs because they break. You have to maintain them. I just want native integration. And when I find that right partner, then they need to be able to scale with me as we grow and scale. So that's the journey.
Yeah.
I'm very biased. I don't like to build things. I like to buy things. But other folks have different philosophy. But for me, it's like, I don't want to build anything. I just buy it out of the box, and I want it to plug and play. And that saves me so many headaches. So
start with making sure that you have the right ERP in place, and then build from there.
And build around it.
Buy and build from there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Buy and build.
What would you say, Carissa? Do you have any tips for someone who wants to know where to begin?
Sure. My company is complex because it is the result of many different acquisitions and mergers that have come together. So everything was done differently for every single product, it seems. And so from that perspective, we have had to start small a little bit. We asked for help. So KPMG has been in to help us try to figure out how to automate our order to cash system, get the systems to work with what we have so that it can be automated. And so we don't have as much manual intervention. As well as, I feel like starting small. It's easy to start with a small piece, like we use Anaplan for forecasting, and it has scenario-based modeling and the like. And so you can automate a lot of your forecasting process using tools like that. And then when you get something to work for you, you see how you can expand upon that. And so if you have a complex system with mine, I feel like you just need to find a piece you can start with and start with that and get that automated, and then move on to the next thing.
So what would you say is the best, most value of automation?
Well, to me, it's about scaling, right?
Being able to scale.
Being able to scale. Most smaller companies usually do not invest in automation, so they throw bodies at it. And eventually, no matter how many bodies you add, they start getting in each other's ways, and there's a lot of syncing, right? And so knowing when to invest in technology and with the future in mind, right, or where the puck is going to be, not where you are, and being able to invest in a system that's going to work for you for many, many years, not forever. Eventually you will have to replace it, but with 3, 5, 10 years in mind, that's to me the right approach. And that ability to scale the business with technology allows you to, eventually get that ROI and the profitability that you need without having to continue to throw more and more bodies or consultants into your business.
What's the best value from your perspective?
It's hard to say a best in our space because you kind of look at the trade-offs for the people costs and the system costs and that kind of thing. But what we're talking a lot about recently with AI is bringing joy back to work. And so taking the mundane and the monotonous out, letting the AI do that. And so we can really focus on the fun things, the things that got us excited about our jobs at the start.
I love that you mentioned that, because that's something that we've been talking about within. Now I'm not supposed to talk about Rillion in that sense, but actually we've talked about bringing fun back. And then people have been saying, like, can you really say that this kind of work is fun? Yeah, you can.
Absolutely.
You don't need to do the mundane and the boring stuff. It can be really fun and exciting. Okay, let's move to question number 2. Obviously, automation doesn't come without challenges. So we're going to talk a little bit about hurdles that you come across. And once again, we've asked this question in our survey, and 3 things stand out: budget, behavioral change, and integration as the 3 most common hurdles. What challenges have you come across in your organization?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I agree with those. The budgetary, you want to automate more, but there has to be a return on investment, right? If you're going to invest in automating, the return has to be there. And the integration piece I talked about earlier, it's usually the most challenging, particularly as you scale, that you have more and more systems, legacy systems, acquisitions that companies you acquired and their legacy systems. So that stitching together of a platform, to me, is the longest pole in the tent, that it's the hardest to conquer. And then, as you mentioned, change management, bringing the team along, and everybody likes to complain about their systems, but nobody wants to change them. And so you kind of have to get the team involved and that they're part of the process and train them, and then get them excited about the system. Then they get to complain about the new system, and eventually becomes a norm, and the old one's forgotten, and and repeat. But then there's something else you got to do at that point, and start the whole process again.
Do you agree, Carissa, or have you seen any other challenges or come across any other challenges?
I think our biggest challenge is time. So the prioritization of that versus everything else that needs to be done. So it's often hard. You kind of have to balance the run the business versus change the business. And so getting that right balance with the right level of people. And I've often found I've had to pull people out of their day jobs to focus on change the business in order for us to really make progress on something.
And also that you might have something that works.
Yeah.
And then deciding that you're going to pause that because you might implement or you will implement, or you want to implement something that might become better. But
exactly.
And then back to prioritizing time in that.
Yeah, it really is. In addition to the change management piece, getting people to understand that the value of doing something different.
Yeah.
And freeing up time, and you kind of have to go on a little bit of a sales pitch for that.
Yes.
So you were touching, Cisco, on the budget constraints. Like, how do you have any examples of how do you get the wider business to understand the value of automation, and then you have a case for the investment?
So doing a basic return on investment analysis, right? We're looking at, there's one little piece in our business right now that's not automated that we have to either do a batch processing, and there's not a built-in API. So we looked at, can we automate that, bring in a consultant to build an API, which again, I don't like to do. And we looked at the cost of it, and ultimately, is it worth the investment? The current process is a pain because somebody has to remember to do it and export a CSV file and then upload the CSV file. And sometimes it breaks and it doesn't work, but 99% of the time it does. So but when I looked at the cost of it, it's like, ultimately it takes like 10 minutes. And we're going to spend a month, 2 months building an API. No, you got to be pragmatic at some point. It's like, this is not the biggest problem we have. We have much bigger problems to tackle. Let's focus on the big things. We'll just continue to endure this small pain here. So we always look at it. That's a simple one, but whether there's a big, middle, or small, the process is the same. You got to look at what the savings is. Will you get the ROI? And this is the biggest problem you have. Focus on the big things.
Would you say that you approach it in the same way when it comes to time to sort of prove the value, even though it takes time away from the daily work?
Yes, I think you have to. You have to look at it on, we say person hours instead of man hours, but person hours, how many person hours are you saving? And that's part of the contemplation versus how much time does it take to actually install it. And so with some of these things, like an ERP, it can be a 2-3 year process for some people. You have to really be committed to that to really want to drive and make that change. And it's very expensive. So you have to think about it from what is the business getting and the value. And it's both hard and soft. So what are the true dollars? What are the true time savings? As well as what other things does that free up? And so it becomes an entirety of a business case and looking at all those pieces and then getting buy-in from the executive team. So you all are in agreement that this is a priority for the business.
And what you're not going to work on.
Yes. And what you're going to give up in the interim. Yes, exactly.
There's an opportunity cost.
And then I think, and I love to hear your perspective on it. I mean, buy-in from management is one thing, but then buy-in from the rest of the people, the users, that might not be as easy.
Yeah.
So how do you work with your team to, emphasize the value of this that you want to do instead of them being scared of the change?
I think it's always about what's in it for them. So make it personal. What's in it for them? What are they getting? Time back, easier processes, easier systems to use. It is a little bit of a change, but in the end, it's going to be a better solution for you. I think really helping them understand that value proposition is huge in getting them to buy into the change and then over communicate and over train. I think a lot of times if there is an issue with adoption of a new system or process, it's because people don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
What do you say, Cisco?
Yeah, I'm going to jump on the selling the dream, right? We do want to sell it, the benefits to the company, right? The savings, etc. But ultimately, what really resonate with the team is if they get time back, right? That they get to go see their families earlier. They get joy back in their life for things that used to be annoying and manually. Now they're automated and easy, and that they get joy back in their day work and they get time back, which ultimately that's the biggest selling point to me.
Peace of mind, feeling that they are on top of things.
I think there's also a cultural impact of doing continuously improving. And if you have a culture where you're continuously improving, people will find value in it and see that, look, my employer is doing things to help benefit me, to make my life easier, to give me time back with my family and do that. So I think there's a lot in that value proposition of here's the why. And we talk a lot about explaining the why, because it's so hard for people to get on board if they don't hear the why. And so many times we're so busy that we just go right on past it. But you really do have to pause and explain the why.
And do you think it's critical to, or fundamental, or important to connect it to the personal gain in that sense?
Yes.
More than maybe the business gain.
Absolutely. I think it's important to have both points of view, but to help people understand, especially, I mean, if you think about an accounts payable analyst maybe is not as concerned about the impact to the entirety of the business, but they are certainly understanding the impact to themselves and their day-to-day life. So getting them on board with an AP tool and understanding the impact that it can have on them personally, I think is huge.
Great.
And then you touched upon integrations before, Cisco. Can you, maybe Carissa, share some examples where your systems are integrated in a valuable way, or that gives value to your whole processes?
It's a little bit of a challenge for us. We also have NetSuite, but we don't necessarily leverage all the feature functionality that NetSuite can offer because of our complexity. And so we actually go in, and when we're looking at tools, it's how can I get this into NetSuite? And sometimes NetSuite even has a capability to do that we're paying someone else for. But sometimes it's just a little bit clunky in how that works. And so it's really hard, and it ends up with this super complex system of activity that you have when they're not fully integrated. So having Cisco's point of view of it starts at the center and moves out, versus we have a little bit of, we've inherited a bunch of things and this is how we've gotten it to connect together. APIs are wonderful. You can connect to almost anything with almost any software right now. So it allows a lot of flexibility, but they don't always work the most optimally.
But you would say that integrations is something that is key to...
It should be more of a consideration point of how do we get things that work well together, not just check the box they work together.
Exactly. Interesting. Okay, let's turn to probably the biggest trend of 2025, AI. Interesting enough, though, that although this is, I mean, the hottest topics across industries, when we look at our survey, it shows that only 8% of finance departments say that they have implemented AI extensively.
They're lying.
Okay, start with you.
1%.
Lies. So you think the number is too low, or?
It's too high.
You think it's too high? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, interesting. Why do you then think adoption within finance teams processes are that low?
Yeah, and I'm being a little cheeky. Obviously, I don't know, but I can tell you from my experience on the ground, you know, and I got to premise by say, I'm in the food and beverage business, and we're a small company. It's very different if you're in a bleeding edge tech company in Silicon Valley and you live and breathe that. You're probably there. You know,
most companies are.
We're a small company, and we sell butter. That's not it's not in the center of what we do. We're all excited about it. It's coming, right? And we can see it. I can see the future. It's coming. I see all my vendors talking about all the wonderful things they do in AI, and I'm like, you don't do that. I use your tool. I've never seen that. it's coming.
Yeah.
And I think we all want to embrace it and do that, use AI. But when I sit on the ground, it's like, we're not there yet.
Why?
For many reasons, there's a training,
Yeah.
as Carissa talked about. We need to train our team so they know how to use the tools.
Yeah.
There's also like 1 million tools.
Yeah.
It's like, it's overwhelming to even which tool do I use, There's security risks, right? And fear of my data being breached, right? That they're going to be loading large data sets, my data into these tools and becomes in the public domain. So there's governance issues, costs. There's so many angles to it that everybody's playing with it. Everybody's using it. We use it extensively in our marketing department, with creative. But when you look at the finance department, am I ready to turn that over to AI? We're not there yet. At least we're not, We use it for doing like regression analysis. So we load a data set and develop faster, better insight than we can build. I don't have a team of data scientists, so the AI tool is my data scientist, and we use it in that perspective. It helps us with forecasting. But these are kind of off the grid things. They're not the core business. When you look at my core business, the transactions that are being processed, and it's not there yet. My tools, I assume the vendors I use are working on it, and they'll be rolling those features out soon, and we'll start using it. But right now, the AI in our company is ChatGPT and Copilot, and that's the reality of where we are. Those are the two things we really, really use. Everything else is kind of like a nice little extra, but it could be that we're way behind that. And that's how.
But would you say because it's still early on that you feel, nah, I'm waiting a bit, or what is your biggest concern in terms of AI within your department?
So we don't have an IT shop. I can't build tools, so I want to buy tools out of the box. And now we've invested heavily in systems, and I need my vendors to roll these features out. And when they do, I'm going to be the first in line to use them. But they haven't yet. And once my current vendors or future vendors, when they're available, that comes out of the box, then it'll be part of what we do. It'll just be embedded in our system. I'll give you one example. A big part of my business is managing promotions. We run a lot of promotions. If any of you do grocery shopping, H-E-B, Walmart, Target, all your major grocery stores, there's always promotions. You buy one, get one, $1 off, etc. It's extremely complicated, unbelievably complicated, of how many promotions we're on at any given time. We're in 26,000 doors in the US, and how many promotions are out there. Then those retailers send us what's called deductions. They send us, basically we have to pay them for those promotions. And we have a tool that does that. And then being able to match that, look, we were supposed to have done $1 off at H-E-B, and then we actually ran $1 off in H-E-B, and doing that matching. Yeah. It's incredibly manual. Our vendor, we just hired bought a new system that does a lot of that matching. And, it's like, wait, that's actually that's like AI-ish. There's a level of intelligence. The machine learning is learning, and it gets smarter every time. And it's like, that's the first sign I've seen is like, look, we're I don't know if we're here, but I can see it. And fast forward a year from now, this is going to be, this is a perfect place to use AI, where you take two things and match them together and have the machine do it instead of a human. I'm all in, but are my vendors, my tools there yet? Not yet, but I can see it. It's coming. I'm super excited about it.
What would you say, Carissa? Why do you think adoption is low?
One, I think, is the security piece. So we even have our
fintech.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So security breaches, having data that isn't contained even within the company. There's certain financial data you don't want spread across the entire company, much less outside of the company. So even if you have a contained version of a ChatGPT that is still, you would have to contain within the container to really understand and be able to do permissions and controls around that. So I think there's just a lot of things that the finance folks are a little bit hesitant to do.
Yeah.
So we're taking bite-sized pieces. So we have data scientists that we've worked with that build out. We have an AI tool that reads contracts for revenue recognition. So we ask it to tell me these 20 questions, so I can determine like start date, end date of contract. If there's any special terms, does it mention cancellation clause? Those kind of things that we can pull out of a contract versus having an accountant read the contract. Now they will go in and spot check and ensure that everything goes appropriately, because that's the other thing with AI. Is it still requires a person to ensure that it's appropriate. You got to check it. There are still things that happen. The first time we ran this tool, it was about 60% accurate. So we refine. And now we would think it's about 95% accurate.
Okay.
And so you have to do things and give it more restrictions within the prompts to help it understand what you're wanting it to do. So I think for administrative tasks, like we have Microsoft Copilot, I need to write me a reference letter for this person who has these characteristics. Out it goes.
Beautiful.
Help me with a performance review with these things, and it's so lovely. And then you just go edit it from there. For that kind of stuff, it's great. Yeah. But I think we're still hesitant to bring it into our system with our actual numbers. Yes. And I think it'll evolve, and a lot of our tools are bringing it on. We've had an AI predictive and analytic tool within Exactly where we do all of our bookings forecasting for signing new software contracts. It's more and more accurate as we go, but we've had that kind of thing for several years already. Yeah. So I think people are finding ways to make it work in more confined areas.
And would you say what Cisco is touching upon in terms of the systems that you already have, that they are not necessarily leveraging AI fully in their systems themselves yet, or how do you look upon that?
I think we're kind of all in the same place. Everybody's dipping their toe in, but they haven't fully embedded. I would say if I think pivot outside of finance into our financial institution software, we've done quite a bit around AI, especially around agentic, being able to answer questions, provide training. You have those agentic AI tools within our software. So we're trying to think of how do we leverage that more internally as well. And know many software providers are too. So like Workday now has an agentic tool where you have a Workday analyst through Teams and can ask it questions, and it'll prompt you for things. So I think some of them are really starting to do more and more of it, but it's really much more around a kind of customer support lens than anything else.
So if we look ahead then, is any use cases, like most promising AI use cases that you're really excited about within your space? Cisco?
I can go. As I mentioned, the promotion management in my space is huge. It's ripe. It needs to happen. It is unbelievably challenging manual process right now, and that is ripe for disruption. There's a million vendors working on it. The right one will appear as a solution, and the minute they do, I'll buy it, implement it, and we will be officially in that business and using AI for that process. Pricing, price elasticity analysis, kind of promotion planning for not processing transactions, but more for, pricing analysis. All that stuff we do manually right now. Excel and Chat GPT, and we run regression analysis, and it's a very arduous process we do once in a while. Can't wait for the day where it's just the machine is just spitting out the data every day, telling me what's happening real time and where I'm leaving margin on the table, or where should I take price moves, and that stuff it's coming. And I can't wait for it. We're not there yet. I don't know if some other folks are there. And then the FP&A processes, right? We still, you're lucky you have a tool. We're still in Excel, and I've used those tools before. They're good. They do a good job. but being able to build simulations and scenarios and on the fly, and it's coming. I can see it. It's there. But we're not there yet. But can't wait for that
soon
to arrive.
What's the use case you're excited about in the future?
The procurement one that we're testing is one that I'm excited about, just to kind of address something that is a gap for us. I mean, it's not something that we spend a lot of time on because it seems like low dollars, but those low dollars add up to big amounts. I think FP&A is a really interesting one. We often get stuck in these cycles of creating PowerPoint presentations, and even, we've been talking about this for my entire career. How do we automate FP&A? And so we can do more analytics and less of producing PowerPoint slides and Excel spreadsheets. I think that's a really exciting place too, like having that fully automated, so our teams really are focusing on running and analyzing the business is going to be a huge lift for the finance teams.
More time, more hours spent on
Absolutely.
or focused on that instead.
And much more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Valuable. Okay, so almost 40%, according to the survey, are planning to invest in AI during 2025. Any plans of your own in terms of that, Carissa?
Yes, we actually just awarded a contract last week for a provider to come and help us think about a few different areas within the business, but internal, mostly G&A focused. And so how do we think about how do we automate various pieces of the business? And so they have some benchmarks and ideas for us. And so we're going to work through them, build out a business case, and determine where the highest value is. So take it from highest value to lowest and adopt and go and see how many we can get done within the amount of time we have.
Yeah, to me, that is going to be the feature, that the next great thing that is going to separate the vendors, right? Again, I'm biased. I don't like build in-house. I like to buy things off the shelf. I was very clear about that.
You're going to get a lot of pitches now, let me tell you.
I'd love to. I'm always looking for the new and the next great thing. As security obviously is critical. The interoperability, the integration is, but all those things we've had for a while. And the next great thing is building those AI capabilities in, and the vendors that invest and differentiate themselves in their capability, they'll get a competitive advantage in the marketplace, and I'll be first in line. He's like, where do I sign up? So tie me up.
It will be a key differentiator, I think, going forward.
Do you already now have like a AI budget that you need to spend, or?
I mean, we have a
set aside.
Not on a material level. I mean, we have money set aside for, but it's more like play money.
Yeah.
Buying enterprise, ChatGPT enterprise size. It's more like play money, because again, I'm looking more for vendors that have AI embedded in their solution, not AI as a solution itself.
I think that is the next generation is much more complementary AI to an automation that already exists. How do they take it not just to automate the process, but to add value to the process? And I think that's where AI can come across a lot of the things and systems that we use to really add a lot of value. Tell us what we're doing that isn't efficient in our NetSuite. Tell us what we're doing and call out where we're doing something different. There's a lot of value added opportunities within that AI could come in and provide that benchmarking without exposing sensitive data.
Yeah. Time flies. We need to wrap up. Huge thank you to both of you. I'm super happy for you being here and sharing your insights with us. I personally think that this is extremely interesting to hear your thoughts and get your perspectives on things. I learn a lot myself, and I hope that all of you watching also have been inspired and that you walk away with a couple of new ideas and insights. Next episode of the CFO of the Future will drop at the end of September. More details around that with exact date will come. in the meantime, you can check out our website, Rillion.com. And until that, thanks again and see you again.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here.